Order at 5:01. Gary, can you take the roll, please?
Scott Fishel.
Here.
Dennis Keeney. Here. Denise Brewster.
Here.
Glenn DeGrassi.
Here.
Lori Kniske.
Here.
Okay, please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone, welcome. On behalf of the board, I'd like to welcome all students, staff, parents, and interested community members to tonight's Board of Education meeting. I would like to remind everyone that this is a meeting of the Board of Education held in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is time for public comment during the meeting in the public participation section of the agenda. I would like to move to amend the agenda and if I can find it in the agenda. Item number 14, the vouchers, Hurt Ohio. I'd like to make a motion to remove that from the agenda. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Was that your request to put it back on the agenda? Like, how did it get on the agenda, now you want to take it off the agenda?
I don't know how it got on there unless someone requested it be on there.
I think at the last meeting it was voted to postpone to the next regular meeting. That's
Okay. Thank you for that.
So we'll continue to, not have it on the agenda, is that the, what I'm hearing?
I think anyone can put anything on, any board member can put anything on the agenda they want.
That's not what I asked. Are we going to continue to not have the conversation?
Well, I don't know. We would have to wait till the next meeting to see that.
Okay, are we going to continue to not have it on the board agenda?
I think any board member can put anything on the agenda they want.
Thank you for not answering me. We can move on.
Okay, Carrie, can you take the roll?
Scott Fishel.
Aye.
Dennis Keeney.
Aye.
Denise Brewster.
Aye.
Glenn DeGrassi.
Nay.
Lori Kniske.
Nay.
Motion carried. Approval of the minutes. A motion to approve the minutes as attached. Can I get a second?
Second. You
Any
need to
discussion?
read the dates of the minutes, please.
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
Please read the dates of the minutes.
It's the April 28th board meeting minutes or April 24th board meeting minutes and the April 28th work session minutes.
Thank you.
All right, I second the motion.
Gary, can you take the roll?
Lori Kniske.
Aye.
Scott Fishel.
Aye.
Dennis Keeney.
Aye.
Denise Brewster.
Aye.
Glenn DeGrassi.
Aye.
Motion carried. And then there would be is there a second approval of the minutes, Gary?
Yes.
Or did- Okay, so motion to approve the minutes
May 9th special meeting.
for the May 9th special meeting. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Gary, can you take the roll?
Scott Fishel.
Aye.
Dennis Keeney.
Aye.
Denise Brewster.
Aye.
Glenn DeGrassi.
Aye.
Lori Kniske.
Abstain.
Thank you. Okay, special reports.
Okay, I have actually 3 tonight. The first, we're really excited to have our Eagle Scouts and recognize our Eagle Scouts who earned the rank of Eagle throughout the school year. We have both Eagle Scouts and the Gold Award for the Girl Scouts of America as well. We're recognizing. I'm going to ask each of them to come down and briefly speak to the board about their Eagle project. Then we did have a slide for each of them. So first up tonight, and congratulations to Paul Bernardo. I did learn that Paul's Eagle badge is in process. So he's.
Hello, I'm Paul Bernardo. I'm an Eagle Scout out of Troop 165 in Painesville. And for my Eagle Scout project, I made 5 flag retirement boxes for the locations of the administrative building, the recycling center, the Fairport Harbor Library, Zion Lutheran Church, and the administrative building, if I didn't say it. And for my project, it's to teach the community about how to retire flags, and also gives them an opportunity to do it themselves and to bring in their old flags if they don't know how to. So,
Good job.
thank you.
Next up is Sarah Bernardo, and she earned the Girl Scouts Gold Award, correct?
Yes.
I'm not as familiar with that as I am with the Boy Scouts of doing.
Well, I'm Sarah, and for my project, I made memory kits for people with dementia and Alzheimer's. I made these kits to show community support and to help them. In each kit, there's also a book of encouragement. So if they check out a kit, they can write down a little message for the next person that checks it out. And I gave these kits to 5 libraries and 5 nursing homes throughout Lake County.
Do they get to keep those, or are those for people with dementia, or?
It's for people with dementia and their loved ones and caregivers, and they can check them out and then return them. And in the book of encouragement, the next person that checks them out can see the little note that they wrote them.
I think that's really nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Which one got their award first?
I think I got my gold award first, but it was close.
Congratulations on the win. Last up, but certainly, Riley Strickland. Riley is a legend at Buckeye Elementary.
Hello everyone, as he said, my name is Riley Strickland and my project was the construction of a Gaga Ball pit at Buckeye Elementary School. For those of you that don't know, Gaga Ball is basically a game that's similar to dodgeball, except you're punching a ball around instead of throwing it. And the goal is to encourage physical activity among the kids at Buckeye Elementary School. So I recognized a need for a Gaga Ball pit there, and I contacted Dr. Rotino and Principal Smolin there, and we set up a date and started constructing, and we got it done, and it was super cool.
Thank you. Good job.
Can I get that community up here for a group photo? Can't go anywhere without a photo.
Yeah, we need a photo.
Someday somebody's going to have to explain Gaga Pit to me. I know.
Oh, the kids would love to. It's great. They're one of their favorites.
1, 2, 3. Perfect. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Next up, I wanted to continue the discussion on the Pathway to Excellence that we started and we introduced last month. We said we would go through one to two of each of the domains every time. Tonight, we are going to discuss the high-quality assessments, which is the upper right of the pathway. Basically, Riverside utilizes a comprehensive assessment system to monitor student progress. Assessments really drive the instruction we provide, and they're the key to the personalized learning that we try to get to. That's a part of the next steps that are there. These assessments, they guide instruction, and they ensure readiness and competency across grade levels. They start when students enter as kindergarten in the KRA, and then also the MAP assessment that we provide, and work their way all the way through students exiting in grade 12. Assessment results are actively used to drive instructional decisions, identify necessary interventions, and align learning outcomes with broader community and workforce needs. So we don't just give these for grades, we give them to really kind of tell what they are. When we talk about assessments, we talk about a lot of different types of assessments. The first is a diagnostic or a benchmark assessment. And the purpose of that is to really identify where a student's strengths and area for growth are. These do not count as grades in any state. They are typically standardized. They're conducted periodically to check if students are on track for the next event and they're on track for year-end goals that we set up. Examples of that are the NWA MAP assessment that we give in both reading and math in grades K through 8. State benchmarking assessments, which mimic the state test but do not have any stake with them. We give those typically once to twice a year. The KRA is another one that we do. We give to administer to all kindergartners when they enter to assess their readiness for kindergarten. It gives us a baseline so we can move forward. Formative assessments are assessments that monitors learning that's going on, so they are assessments for learning. And then we can adjust instructional practice to adjust teaching strategies. These are things that we typically do within the classroom on a regular basis. Examples include running records, dibbles, classroom quizzes. Sometimes we use Quizlet, writing prompts, like quick writing prompts, checkpoints, exit tickets, just to kind of check where they are. Again, not for any type of grade, just to really check to see are the students learning and kind of where they're at. Summative assessments are assessments of learning. So they kind of measure where students are and did they grasp the concept. At that point, we are done providing the core instruction or the Tier 1 instruction. They measure students' learning at the end of the unit, semester, or year. Examples of those are a standardized unit test at the end of a unit, the state tests, not only the state assessments, but also the end of course exams, AP tests. We're actually in AP tests right now, so our students are taking AP tests, and those assessments kind of are assessments of learning. They do have a finality to them, and they do kind of measure, did they meet the standards or the achievement that's there. The last one are performance-based assessments. These, I would argue, would be the most authentic of the assessment type. They allow students to demonstrate skills throughout through the use of projects, presentation, or hands-on activities. Some of the examples, and one that we had a meeting for this morning, is the Senior Capstone Project. That's a different type of project where our seniors are doing work-based learning for 250 hours. They are going to do some leadership training as well, and they are going to do some presentations, and it ends with a presentation and an interview process at the end of the capstone project. Portfolio review is another one where they present a portfolio of what they've learned, as well as a project based in the unit that really has them apply what they've learned in some sort of way. Also, a lot of our CTE certifications are truly performance-based assessments where our welders have to weld a skill and submit that welding. That's performance-based and not necessarily tell me how you weld, but actually weld it, show it doesn't meet the standards, it doesn't meet the test. The purpose of assessments, because we don't want to just assess for no purpose. We have multiple purposes in all of our assessments. First and foremost, we use them to guide instruction. Where are the students? If they know it, why are we teaching it? If they've learned to master it at that level, so where can we go? Can we enrich them in some level? We use it to measure growth. Where did they start? Where are they coming through? How did they grow? We use it to identify interventions and target interventions and not just say they're struggling in reading. There's a lot of complex parts to reading. Is it decoding? Is it actually in text? That sort of thing. We use them to inform families and to partner with our families along the way to make sure that our families, where their students learning, kind of use these measures as checks for where their students are away. And then we also use to assess readiness and competency within the community. So it determines the achievement level and guide decisions that we make based on curriculum, based on instruction, instructional strategies, and that sort. And even more, how are they used in the classroom and throughout the school? Well, our teachers use assessments to adjust instructions and intervention. Did they teach the level that they need to, or do they need to go back and reteach it to that level of competency? What interventions do our students need to make sure that they're on grade level? Our students use them to reflect on their learning process. One of the most powerful things we do is provide students with feedback back and kind of say, what did you do? How did you reflect on this? And do you agree with this? Or where's your learning level at? Our parents, again, it's to stay informed of the learning at home. So it's a way that we communicate learning with our parents. As school leaders, our principals, assistant principals, coaches, and curriculum staff, they use those assessments and kind of in a large group state to evaluate the effectiveness of the curriculum and the effectiveness of the instruction that's occurring and to make adjustments and to provide professionalized learning. And then our community, part of this is that dashboard that's to align the education with the workforce needs. So are we meeting where we say we're meeting? Are we producing students that are going to be productive members either in college and career or in the workforce? So those are how we use those assessments. Any questions on assessments? That's why I only picked one block today. I will add 2 for the next time
That's fine.
in terms of time, so. If there are no questions, I will turn it over to TDA for the last part. Ryan from TDA is here for an update on where we are with our construction projects.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Yeah, I'll give you a brief update. We are presently at a phase with the first 2 projects that we've been talking about. The work over at Riverside High School, the CTE portion of that work, and Riverview is going to be in a very similar sort of state. So what we're looking at right now is we are at a point in the process where bids have been received from the contractors. You've seen the GMPs, and they are going through and they're locking in all their subcontractors. So it's a process where they go through and effectively lock in their contracts with all their subcontractors that will be doing the work. What that does is it really gets them prepped so that once they get out on site, everybody's lined up, everybody's ready to go. We can start the process now, which is called the submittal process, where we start getting all the information in for the actual products that are going to be used within the buildings. That's another series of reviews from our side of things where we check and say, you know, the metal studs that we're getting meet the specifications that we're putting in the manual for the bid, or the piping is what it's supposed to be, or plumbing fixtures, et cetera, et cetera. But it's really to validate and verify that all the pieces, parts that you're getting in these buildings matches what the bid specifications are. With that process too, there will be some RFIs and questions and things like that that go on that make sure that once construction starts in earnest, everybody's ready to go and everything's smooth as possible. So that's all happening presently at this moment. Construction will commence here very shortly. We're at a point where we've gone through permitting for both of these jobs. It's been reviewed by the county, stormwater, and all of these folks, fire departments, police departments, building departments, and we're at a point where they're finalizing the permits for these. We should have that here, everything wrapped up very shortly, and be able to roll right into construction in June. And with that, over the summer, so the first things that you're going to see on both of the sites, and I have 2 schedules here, but it's really very similar. The first thing that you're going to see on both sites is basically they go out there and they do site prep. And what that means is they'll go to the construction areas, they'll strip off the topsoil, and they'll start building up the building pads where the new additions will go. So first thing you'll see is a bunch of site work. In hand with that, they have to go through and do some site prep for utilities and storm drainage and things like that, because you can't, you know, you have an active work site, you got to make sure that you're following all the requirements of the code and things of that nature. So that's all going on, utilities are going on, and then they'll start footings and they'll start walls, and all those things will basically build the building from the ground up to the top, the roof being the final piece of enclosure, and then they'll start interiors in the fall. So that's kind of where we are with both of those projects. We are in the process of setting up weekly construction meetings with the contractor and the owner's rep, and we'll be able to get into that process here in the next week or so. So, any questions on the schedule for Riverview and CTE?
Are you advertising now? You know, groundbreaking?
Oh, the groundbreaking. We have scheduled the groundbreaking. It is the 30th, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, Friday the 30th. We sent out invites to all who are involved. I think at 3 o'clock here, and then 2:30 at Riverview. Is that correct?
Okay.
And then if we could, I do have an update for Buckeye as well. We have gone through a process here. We've met with the Buckeye Committee a couple times as well to really start looking at the scope of these projects. We've presented a plan for this building a couple times here. We've gotten to the point where we've had discussions about the actual makeup of the classrooms, the configuration of the gymnasium. We've made some slight adjustments to that, and just basically the shape of the building itself. And now we're kind of backtracking into the rest of the building to start looking at the mechanical systems, some of the renovation components of the existing building. So we have engineers lined up so that over the next week or two, we'll be going through the existing building and really getting a solid idea of some of those systems, making recommendations to the district as to how we could tackle, the mechanical system and come up with a good mechanical system that provides quality environment in that building. Some of the other electrical components and flooring and finishes and stuff like that, we're kind of circling through that. The other big thing to note on the school project itself, the addition project itself, is as we do this, there is that existing playground that's located over by the modular classrooms. So the approach we're taking is obviously we're trying to be efficient with time, efficient with dollars, make sure the student experience is affected as little as possible through construction. There will be some bumps in the road just because it is a construction process, but to minimize those impacts on people. So the first thing that we're recommending to do is really establish that new playground that will ultimately be your final playground on the site, create a location for that. This diagram gives a location that we're recommending presently. It will get it out of the construction zone, it will place it in alignment with the rest of the buildings, and ultimately would be a good home for it permanently. It would have access to green space out the back. It would be adjacent to the gymnasium so that you could share that playground space with PE classes and things of that nature. But that component, by building that component first, it allows you to then go back in, remove the existing playground, and then ultimately start construction of that new building in that location. So it's a bit of a stepping stone to get to that point where we can actually start building the building. Other than that, with the building itself, I did note that we did make a modification to that gym space. And that gym, I had it verified again today. We're really trying to create a very similar experience, kind of an equity between the elementary schools. That gym is very much in keeping with what you have at Riverview and elsewhere in the district. It's the similar size, it's got similar features. We're gonna have space for seating, so it's the whole idea was to really make this building very similar in features and offerings as the rest of the buildings. So then if we could go to the schedule. And so you can see we've gone through a lot of that verification process with the building. We're still in progress going through vetting out systems, looking at existing spaces, and we'll have essentially what is a document for the existing building where we just list all of our recommendations for things that could be done. You could choose which pieces of those you want to do. Some of the things we'll list as alternates, but we'll be able to come up with a list for the contractor to ultimately bid. On top of that, we're working on the actual documents for construction. There's schematic design, which we're in right now, where you're going through creating the general footprint of the building, basic look at the building. Then you go into design development, where we fine tune our building systems, mechanical systems and such, and then the final construction documents. We're in that schematic design process now, but we're gonna be moving more into actual documentation, where you're gonna see more elevations and more detailed floor plans, and we'll be starting to pick out hardware and things like that for the building. And then as you roll into fall, that's when you can do some of that very early site prep, be working on the playgrounds and getting everything ready so that as we hit spring next year, you're really able to hit the ground running. Late winter, early spring next year, you're able to hit the ground running and get construction started without any issues.
Okay, just the point about the playgrounds, you said fall, but our students are here in August, and they're gonna wanna be on the playground, and so, I talked to Dr. Rotino about the fact that, obviously our weather, you never know what you're going to get, but, it needs to be student-ready, for them to be able to use something, when they come back to school, especially if you are doing any early site prep, you're going to have a 30 foot?
Around the building.
Around
Yep.
the building
And
site,
so-
which encompasses most of the playground.
Yeah, and so the way that we were looking at that in a way to kind of have a belt and suspenders was to leave that existing playground as it is, and functioning as it is until that new one is constructed. So if there's any delays in arrival of materials for that new playground, you have a backup playground, an existing playground that's functioning. And then as the new one is completed, you're able to migrate students to that space and essentially decommission that existing playground.
Okay, it's just that, obviously you're familiar with the prep, you have to have, mulched area, and,
Yep.
right now it's grass there.
Yep.
And then part of that area that's scoped out there takes away their ball field, their kickball field.
Yeah, yeah.
And we're already taking away some of their, especially with the fencing, we're gonna take away their basketball blacktopped area.
Yep.
So, and trying to do that, some of that in October, or like last year, we had a lot of snow in November. So I guess I'm just concerned that, we're not doing it when kids are trying to play out there.
Yeah, and the goal is to push that along as quickly as possible to get it to a point where it's ready to go.
Right.
It's just with everything like this, and especially nowadays, when you're trying to order materials, you don't know what you're going to be up against.
Yeah.
So it's always good to have contingency plans to make sure you don't run into anything that's insurmountable. Because if
Okay.
you have no playground because you take the old one out, then you're kind of left,
Okay.
hanging.
And then, I don't know if you want to flip back, but on the orientation of the gym, that did change.
Yep.
And it moved the stage on the west side.
Yep.
And it made the gym go in an opposite direction, from north to south instead of east to west. So it's going to allow for, 3-tier of bleachers, like Parkside and River.
Yeah, and this is still diagrammatic. We're still working through the plans. As I mentioned, this is schematic design. So we have an even more updated version than this where we have
Okay.
seating situated in that space. It's shaping up really nice, and we'll be able to present that at the next meeting that we're invited to.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's working out really well.
All right, sounds great.
Yep.
Can I ask a couple of questions? So
Sure.
we're putting pickleball courts?
No.
No.
Isn't that what that
Where
says?
does that?
No, it's just practice field.
Okay, I can't see.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
it's really
We
small,
could look
folks,
at
like,
pickleball. I mean, I think that.
Where'd Riley go?
Practice
Right.
field.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's our next Eagle Scout
that's just
project.
really small, the print's really small, so even with my glasses on. Then we have, back in December, there was an email communication that went out to the district that said we were gonna be doing HVAC and window improvements and whatever, that's what was promoted to the community at Melridge, and this also says Melridge, but we're not planning any work at Melridge at this time that I'm aware of. Is like, what's that all about? Like, that's, that the board sent out a communication that indicated we were gonna do some work at Melridge. And I remember I had questioned that at the time, like, when did Melridge become part of this package? Because it's still in here, it says Buckeye and Melridge, but we're not doing anything at Melridge.
Yeah, well, we're kind of doing it a phase at a time. The schematic for the addition is priority.
Well, okay,
And there's-
again, our board communication went out and said we were gonna do work, and we promised that work, like we said, we're gonna do windows and HVAC. So Dr. Rotino, like, can you please give us an update on what we've got going on at Melridge? Is there or is there not anything being planned at Melridge?
Not for this year. I believe Melridge is slated for the summer of next year with the inside of Buckeye at the same time.
So we communicated in advance and probably should not have done so, so I'm just gonna put that out there.
Well, these things are in the pipeline, and as Ryan mentioned, once he gets some of this schematic stuff worked out, we'll move into the existing building to really see what it's gonna take. And
The existing
with-
building would be Buckeye, not Melridge. We're not even talking
Exactly,
about
exactly, but they're very similar, projects. And once we get Buckeye nailed down, then we can move over to Melridge. Or we can work some of those at the same time, depending on what kind of system.
Well, let's just be clear, again, we communicated to the public in a board communication in December that I was pretty flabbergasted at that, because I don't remember talking about Melridge, and now we're not doing Melridge. And I had asked that question, when did Melridge become part of that picture? And it's still on here in the schedule. So obviously, there was some consideration that we're going to do some work at Melridge. We told the public we were going to do work at Melridge. We're not doing work at Melridge. I want them to understand we're not doing work at Melridge.
Okay, well, from what I understand, the focus was, of the Buckeye Committee was on the addition. And then concurrently, there's been investigations, as it says on the schedule there, not only of the interior of the older section of Buckeye, but also Melridge. These are older buildings, you have to determine where things are, and I've not been part of that. I just knew from the Buckeye end that there were similar looks and for HVAC, I mean, all that thing.
Yeah.
Maybe folks are not hearing what I'm saying. I am saying that the board sent out a communication to the public and the greater community about work that was going to be done at Melridge in December of 2024 that we're not doing. That's all. I'm not saying anything about the plans or whatever. We're not doing it. There's no plans on the book. You aren't working on anything for Melridge. So we put out communication to the community in advance of actually having conversations about it. And I asked at that time, when was Melridge part of the equation? Because I don't remember that. I just want the community to understand we're not doing it. We put out the communication. It was presumptuous of us to put out communication for work we had not talked about. I just want to be clear.
Thank you for your clarity
No
on that.
problem.
So this is a huge project. What we are doing is fixing problems that have built up over the last 16 years in this district from neglect. So what we have to do is we have to go into Buckeye, we have to add space. We have to add classroom space, we're adding a gymnasium. We have to go into the old building and do as much as we can with the money we will be able to borrow. And we're still in the process, because of the bond interest rate, we're still in the process of figuring out how much we can borrow and what our costs will be. Part of what Ryan right here is saying is, when we go into the old building, we're going to need to determine a couple things along with the new addition. Where are the utilities going to go? How many upgrades do we need to do? How much is that going to cost? Now that's Buckeye. Melridge is part of this process too. And so the same thing in Melridge. We have to go into Melridge and see what items we can accomplish. What can we do with the money we're going to be able to borrow? This is a huge, huge amount of work. The amount of time and effort. I know, Mr. Keeney, you have spent, I don't know how many hours, but I don't want to say countless because it's not countless. You could count them, I'm sure. But so many hours doing the research, as I have done also, and also have had discussions with Ryan about it. This has been going on for many, many months, and we continue to gather information. These are huge, huge undertakings we are taking, and it takes a lot of time to gather all of the information. And yes, we are going to be doing work at Melridge. Yes, we are going to be executing in a way that upgrades Melridge and Buckeye, the old buildings. And of course, the new addition at Buckeye. We're doing the CTE wing here. We're doing the addition at Riverview. The board has undertaken 2 mountains of work to try and catch up. The district, unfortunately, had been neglected for a number of years. And not only do we not have enough space, why don't we have enough space? Well, the board, before I got on the board, and Ms. Brewster wasn't here, Mr. Keeney wasn't here, decided to sell a 16-classroom building called the Haddon School. What are we doing now? We're replacing 16 classrooms. What's it costing us now with the upgrades? $18 million approximately. And that building was sold for $500,000. The district was put in a negative financial position of over $17 million by that move. Okay? That's a huge, huge deficit that we're overcoming. And it takes a lot of time to do all the work we're doing. So yes, the board will deliver on all the work that it has stated to the public. And will it be done in December of 2024? No, it won't. But the work on gathering all the information is continuing to be done. The work will be done in the future. So I want everyone to be fully aware that the work is going to be done, and the communication that goes out to the public is letting the public know that yes, the work is being done, but it's not being done today.
That communication said it was going to be done as part of this project.
And it is part of this project, and this project is a huge project.
And as part of the Buckeye Committee, I've been working with Mrs. Smolin and the rest of the committee. They were able to map out what the interior of the existing building looks like, because we want to make sure that we don't have 4 teachers trying to teach in a singular room, that we don't have intervention services taking place in a closet or a small little room on each wing of the stage. We want to make sure we right-size this building, and we also want to make sure that teachers have the opportunity, if they want to team teach, that there's going to be 2 places in the existing building where they'll be able to do that, because we have 2 places in the new addition. And so the teachers were polled who would like to do that, and we're planning accordingly.
Ryan, one quick question.
Sure.
On the gymnasium, before it was reoriented?
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's just being turned and nothing inside is being changed. We have some storage space in there. Is that still in there?
Yeah, you still have storage.
Okay.
It's just the general shape of the building we reoriented. Part of it, there's an aesthetic component. I mean, we are trying to pull some of the similar, roof pitches and stuff like that from the existing building so that the new one ties to it and looks nice. The other one was just about that access. You come in the door and you're right into the gymnasium.
And so it's a matter of flow. You come,
Yeah.
how the students can flow into there and how the public would flow in. This just seems to be a little bit better fit.
Yeah, and it's a process. I mean, each of these rooms, even the classrooms themselves, they'll get slightly reconfigured as we go through this. They're on paper now and they look great. We could build that and people would like them. But as we go through the process, as we meet with staff, and finalize the fit out for those rooms, they might change a little bit, It's every piece of this will get adjusted a little bit before we get final construction documents. Even then, they change a little bit, so. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Do you have any information about the utilities?
So we have the base information that's on the existing drawings. Some of that needs to be verified. Generally speaking, utility companies are apprehensive to delve too much into a project until they have new loading requirements. So, for example, the new building addition, it has loading requirements. The mechanical system will draw so much gas, it will draw so much electrical. Those are demands that are new to the existing system. The existing building, though, as we're talking through the renovations that could potentially happen there with mechanical systems and such, they have a different set of loads that would go into this calculation that the utility companies will ultimately need to verify against. So that's all part of the work we're doing. That's something that needs to come here in the next couple months. As we gather some of this information, we'll be able to really engage them and get a better idea of what they're going to need to do. So.
And then we did take the stairs that in front of the stage off.
Yep.
Because we're combining the stage area with a gym,
Yep.
that would have been a hazard for students. So we're making sure that, if we have bleachers, they'll be on the opposite side and they're movable.
Yep.
And only 3 tiers like you see at Parkside or
And
Riverview.
the way that's going to be situated is it provides a similar size space on both sides of the gym. So you could put bleachers on either side of the gym, tilt and roll type bleachers on either side of the gym if you like. It does give you the opportunity to put those bleachers on the far side so that as there's an event up on the stage, you'll be able to sit in those bleachers and view the thing that's going on the stage. It is sized, as I mentioned, very similar to Riverview. That's kind of our starting point with a lot of these things on this building, so that if there was ever a desire to do anything else with that seating, you have a very comparable space that you could do that. So it's very much designed in a similar fashion so that all those things that people love about that building, you'll have those same sorts of elements in this building.
Right, okay. And then you spoke about blacktop area
Yep.
outside that gym
Yep.
wall, because there's many times where, like today, it gets too muddy for kids at
Absolutely.
recess, and so they'll have a blacktop area.
Absolutely.
And we'll be able to move the Eagle Scout project.
You will, yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
Okay.
all of those are,
okay, thank
they
you.
can come apart.
Appreciate it, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you all so much. Have a great day.
All right, and that concludes my special report.
Thank you for that. Any old business? Hearing none, is there any new business? Hearing none, buildings and grounds, operations, superintendent's, business advisory, council liaison. So, as our superintendent earlier noted, we had the senior capstone project this morning at 7:30.
The mixer, yes.
Okay, 7:30 to 9:30. What we had is we had some companies, and we had, of course, some administration staff and students. And the students were able to go around and have discussions with the various different people representing companies. We had Cleveland Construction there, University Health, we had Lake Metro Parks, and a few others, right?
1922.
1922, the coffee house. And And so I saw students actively involved in all of that and actually seemed to be interested.
It was a great morning. It's the pilot kickoff. I think it's something that we should really be proud of as a district, that we're moving in this direction. And it's only going to grow from here, and we are still looking for local businesses to partner with for our students to take on our students for it's 250 work hours.
So 250 hours, so the students have to engage with the company for 250 hours for the year. And right now, it's a pilot program, and there are 13 students scheduled.
We have 13 students signed up, and we're working on partnering with a local organization for some leadership training for our students as well.
Can you go into that? Like, that's 250 hours. What does that entail? Is that throughout the entire year?
It's
that
throughout
is that for next year you have these students?
It is for next year. It's 250 hours of specifically work-based learning, so it's not just showing up, and there's specific requirements that are written in the statute that talks about what this is. So one of the ways that a student can secure competency for graduation is earning the Ohio Means Job Seal, as well as logging 250 hours of work-based learning. It's not the only way. Some of our students earn competency by just earning a score on the algebra test and the LA2 test. If they're not able to do that, then there are alternate measures of competency, and this is one of them. So we are offering this option for all students, but it's for one, so it could be alternate ways for.
So what do they do in that 250 hours? I'm curious.
There's it's a individualized basis, and they work with the employer to. It's almost like an unpaid internship to some extent. They're given some tasks to do. They have interviews with the employer. The employer kind of monitors them and gives us feedback along them. They work on kind of having their own self-assessment as to how they're working. The employer serves as a mentor to some aspect as well. Depending on it really does base on what the job is. We talked with Cleveland Construction, for instance, is a great partner to talk with. Theirs may look different depending on the age of the student, because in commercial construction, what you can do at 17 is very different than what you can do at 18. And Cleveland Construction has a program similar to this, but this is that they use to kind of encourage students to enter the construction field. This is a different type of work with them, but they're going to work with us to monitor what this looks like. But when you're 17 in the commercial construction, you're limited, but 18 is different. Same thing with healthcare. University hospitals is a little bit different as what you can do along that. But some of it's just experience in the different areas of healthcare and kind of learning what that is and picking an area and going through that. Some of it's a shadow experience, some of it's actually doing the work as well, and actually doing the work of what that person, what that field does.
Yeah, so it's going to be a very interactive experience for the students. They're going to have to lay out a plan, okay, and they will, of course, work with the company to do that. And then also, they will have to execute that plan. Of course, they'll be working with the company to do that, and the company will be mentoring them, helping them, training them, and grading them to some degree. Not that the company will give them the grade, but they will be helping the school district understand how the student is coming along.
It'll be sort of a performance evaluation.
Mm-hmm. And so this is a big undertaking. 250 hours is a lot, and we're very fortunate to have companies in our community that are willing to participate in this. And like we said, we have 13 students right now that are planning on taking advantage of the opportunity, and we'll see if it's 13 when the spring comes.
We hope so.
So when it's 250 hours, that's a lot.
It is.
What's that look like in a week? How many hours is that?
So
that's a quarter of a work year.
mm-hmm.
It's a lot of hours, and it's probably going to be some flex time depending on.
It's flexible depending on what the student schedule is.
I mean, and like, what is, not to downplay the whole thing, I think it's great, but I'm, like, what is the company's liability when that student is there? What's our liability? Like, are they considered an employee?
They're not considered an employee.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there's lots of issues there, I guess,
It's the same liability, and it's structured after after an internship, and how when a company takes on an intern. It's under the same guidelines that they would have as well. So I don't have the legalities to it that are there. I can look into that.
Yeah, I would just be curious, again, like, I think it's a lot of hours. That's like a part-time employee.
It is,
And
and
so,
that's, so that.
I don't know if that lends itself to additional liability issues that arise within a corporate entity. If anybody at legal has looked at that from their perspective, our perspective, what those things look like. I guess I'd just like more information on that.
Yep, I can bring that back.
Okay, and then buildings and grounds. Mr. Orlesik said that the preparations for graduation are ramping up, and we'll be ready for that. And Ambitious Landscaping has started their work, and he said they did a good job for the military signing prep. Our maintenance crew's busy cutting grass, and they can get through the puddles and catch up with the growing of the grass since we've had so much rain, but doing a good job there. Custodial is prepping for our summer cleaning. How many workers do we have? Do we know for the summer work?
Additional staff, the staff members, they're on for tonight, I think it's
Well,
14.
sorry to ask that specific question.
Yeah, is
but-
it 14, I think?
Okay.
No, we have just under 40.
Oh, just,
Yeah, we have a
oh, way
lot.
up, yeah.
So right around 40.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of participation, and that's kind of where I was going, so thank you for that. And, okay, so also what was brought up, of course, we're looking at the future, and Mr. Orlesik is saying as the additions are built, we're going to need to look at some more staffing to help out with the maintenance, and so we'll be, of course, planning for that as things develop. Seal coating Buckeye, Melridge, Lamuth, Parkside, and 3/4 of the Riverview parking lot comes in at about $53,600, and then striping at $14,600. And so what we're looking at is a lot of parking lot maintenance and repair, and that's going to be moving forward. Also, we talked about there's an asbestos encapsulating project that we're going to be moving forward on. We have a crawl space that has asbestos in it, and we can't be sending workers in there because it's obviously a health risk. And Mr. Orlesik said he's willing to put on the spacesuit and the respirator and go in there, and I suggested that we get the quotes on that and move pretty quickly on encapsulating that asbestos so we don't have to send anyone in there to do work. We have a lot of underground utilities, and if anything breaks and needs fixed, you have to go in there. So this has obviously been there since the building campus was built, and we're going to be remedying that and eliminating that asbestos threat, if you will, because everyone knows if you turn on the TV, asbestos is a big deal for health. So that project will be moving forward. Kyle, our transportation director, is here. He was kind enough to come in and give us another overview on his report on our buses. And what we determined is we have a lift bus a wheelchair lift bus that we probably need to buy, and that will probably cost about, Gary, you were saying approximately $130,000, but we'll be in the process of getting quotes for that. And so that bus, while it's still operational, we want to be proactive and buy a new bus to replace it just in case anything were to happen. So we'll be looking at that. So thank you, Kyle, for that work. And then the other thing that we were looking at was removing the Buckeye trailers, and at this point we're still refining, if you will, a price to dismantle, remove, and transport the one good one. And so Mr. Orlesik is working on that, and there's also another person that I know that'll be looking at that to put in a price. So we should have that information, what do you think, within the next 2 weeks?
By the end of June.
By the end of June, okay. So anyway, that'll move forward, and that's about it as far as I have. Mr. Orlesik, do you have anything further?
Have a great holiday weekend.
Thank you.
Can I ask some questions on this stuff? So we voted to remove buses from our 5-year forecast or our forecast for the PI fund for next year. How is that going to affect our PI fund and all these other improvements that we're doing? Have we encumbered the funds for those in the PI fund? What's that do to our forecast for that fund? And what are we going to do with these trailers that we're removing? Like, where are we putting them?
In the dump.
Yeah, I need to update the permanent improvement fund forecast to accommodate the one
Right.
bus purchase.
So I'll be working with our treasurer on that, and in our discussion for the buses, by the time the buses are ordered and you get it, it's gonna probably be more than a year. So we're gonna make sure that that purchase is in the 2027 fiscal year, so it won't affect the 2026 fiscal year. Okay?
And it's my understanding, just because I'm on the Buckeye Committee, the two older trailers couldn't be transported. They're going to be,
They're almost like fall apart when you touch
yeah,
them.
so they have to be, what do they call it? Take them apart there and scrap them.
In
salvage,
general
whatever.
terms, torn down and thrown away.
Yeah, but then the other one that's the newer one, the more recent one we purchased, that one you're planning on taking
We'll
it.
transport that over to the maintenance property, and then, there's over 600 school districts in the state. We can put a notice out, and I think that at some point, one of those school districts will need something like that so we can sell it.
Okay.
Mr. Placca, will you update, you're going to update the 5-year PI, or the PI forecast for this?
Yeah, I'm gonna have it for like the next board meeting or finance meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, curriculum and programming.
Okay, we did not have a curriculum programs committee meeting this month. We put it off until June 10th at 7:30 a.m., at which time we'll be reviewing the preliminary Ohio State testing results. And Dr. Rotino's putting something together.
Working on it.
With Dr. Malakar.
Yes, we are.
So we'll get that one done.
In between all the other.
All right,
meetings,
and then the Buckeye Elementary Ad Hoc Committee met. I appreciate all the help and attendance by administration at that committee. And the last two meetings we had involved Ryan Schmidt, who was here this evening, and he helped us work through some other details. What has come out of the new addition is that, it makes sense to have that be more the primary wing. Already, we were designating 3 of those rooms for kindergarten because they would have bathrooms. But for design purposes and keeping it equal, there would be 4 rooms that actually have bathrooms. But it also allowed us to push the bathrooms inward, and then that allows for a small tutoring room on each side of the hallway. So if students need extra help, it's going to be right there in that hallway, possibly. And then changing the gym, which he spoke about. And then it made sense that art, music, and library would be kind of clustered in the 90s edition, where they would be able to, like it would just kind of be a wing of, specials. But yet every student in the building would be able to use the gym in the new edition. So, and then within, as I said, within the old section of the building, we made sure that there was ample space for everybody to have the room they need to teach without having multiple people using the same room. And then there was one other thing. Oh, the doors between 2 rooms on each side of the, in the building. So on one wing, there'd be a set of classrooms where a door could be between, and same thing on the other side. So, so I think that kind of worked everything out. Hopefully, I think we're going to have some other kind of meeting to talk about the playground and have some planning with that, so that we know what we're doing. So we'll figure out a time to meet on that. So that was the Buckeye Committee. And then as far as strategic plan liaison, we're basically been focused on this Pathways to Excellence, which you have already outlined. So appreciate you putting that together.
Can I
That's
ask
all I got.
another question? We have classroom moves for the 25-26 school year. Do we have any other documentation on that, or like the plan for the Buckeye spaces and whatnot? Do we have things that we can share with the board? Because I've not seen any
Okay.
of that.
Are you talking about,
That's Mrs. Brewster's agenda item.
Well,
that's my agenda item, I was going to talk about it then. But do you want me to
understand that,
talk
but
about it now?
No, I don't want it now. I want to know, like, we haven't seen any of that. We're being asked to vote on some things, and
It was attached to the agenda, wasn't it?
Oh, it was, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
but we're not going to have any
Yeah. When was
previous
that?
Well,
discussion
the
on
last meeting, I shared that same information. And then this time, we're putting a motion on, and it was attached to the agenda.
When
So-
did the agenda go out?
I just feel like the public needs to hear more
Was it
communication about it, I
Tuesday?
suppose.
When's the board on
We
Tuesday?
did send at the last meeting, I did present kind of the overall, what we are doing with the majority of the plan, classrooms and that sort of thing. We did send out a communication to the public regarding moving special education classrooms and where we move those classrooms to. This specific of the classroom plan and all that was Mrs. Brewster's item put on the agenda, but
Right. And,
I mean, have the plans that we have they been, vetted by administration, staff, like everybody's on board with this plan?
So the plan to move the special education classrooms that were shared and all that came from us.
I'm
The
asking
actual,
about the
where we
Buckeye.
are putting the Buckeye and the classrooms and the temporary modular classrooms, that came out of the, kind of the Buckeye committee. There is some disagreement as to the use of the library, but I think this is kind of where we were settling on from this plan.
yeah,
I suppose when we get to that portion, maybe we can have some more conversation about that, so that we
Okay.
can move this meeting forward.
That's fine, because I have that.
Okay, Policy Committee and Alumni Association.
No policy meeting. Mr. Schlick, are you going to miss the last, no more policy meetings for you?
I don't know, maybe I'll work for the OLA.
You'll be my new
I'll be my
best
next
friend.
All right.
Have fun.
Alumni Association, they are preparing for their golf outing. There is information, I know, on our Facebook page. Is it on the website, Nick?
It's on the alumni
Website?
website, but we linked it on our social media.
Okay.
So
They are looking for golfers and sponsors. So if you want to get out there and golf, I think it's June 19th. if I recall.
21st.
Saturday
June
the
21st.
Yeah, Saturday the 21st.
So they're looking for golfers, and again, they're looking for sponsors for the holes and other things. So if you're interested, get on the website, and I know they would much appreciate it. So that is it at this time.
Thank you for that. Booster Organizations Liaison.
I don't really have too much from the boosters. Some of the boosters are having plant sales currently. People are wrapping up their year-end activities. I know some are planning golf outings over the summer, so you'll probably get some flyers. And there's plenty of information on our website about those, so check it out. So, yeah.
Thank you for that. Superintendent's report.
Okay, exciting time. May is a really busy month within the schools. Typically, at the April or May meeting, we invite our foreign exchange students to come and speak with the board. However, at both meetings, they were busy. So we did ask them to kind of put a little bit of a slide together of what they are. You'll notice a lot of the similarities between the two. The first student that we have to join us is Wame, goes by James Herrera, and he is from Majorca, Spain, which is an island in the Mediterranean Sea. So coming to Cleveland is a very different change for him, I'm sure, especially with this weather that we have. He loved his experience at Riverside and a lot of support from staff and teachers. He was very involved, as we typically see with all of our exchange students. He was involved in cross country, indoor and outdoor track. He had a great time with the team and the coaches and loved his thing. He did miss being away from his family and also the food, and having traveled to Spain once, I would understand that as well. I love me some paella. Our second exchange student is also from Spain, Iker Arroyo, and he is from Madrid, Spain, and it's in the center the country. It's the capital. He had a good experience. He received a lot of help from his teachers. He enjoyed being in sports like swimming, and he loved the people he met. And again, he misses the family, friends, and food. So you just can't get a good paella around in Lake County. Another thing that is awesome that Riverside does, it's a great partnership with Painesville Township, is our Paint the Plows program. This year was a little bit different. We had our art students head over on April 25th. 30 of them traveled to the Painesville Service Garage to paint 11 snow plows. These plows will be on display throughout the summer festivals through Painesville Township, and then you do see them in the winter on the trucks going by, and it's really kind of neat to see that plow go by. One of the things that was different about this is the students created mock-ups of their designs and showed to the drivers and let the drivers pick the designs they wanted for their plow. So the drivers had input into it as well. And the Ninja Turtles won one, as well as a number of other ones, including the Ratatouille. So there's some really cool plow designs this year, and be on the lookout for them. May is the first week of May is Staff Appreciation Week, and we've kind of carried it on throughout the month. But we wanted to just thank all of the great people who work at Riverside. We did a big social media campaign to thank all of our great and amazing staff that do all the things they do for students to make sure that we have the great climate and culture that we have. One of the other things that we are doing as an administrative team is sending a food truck around to the buildings the next couple weeks to provide them with either lunch or for our second shift. They order it and they'll have dinner waiting for them. So it's something we're happy about and excited about. Moved it out of Staff Appreciation Week because if you go to some of those buildings, you do gain 10 pounds within just that week alone by all the PTOs and all the celebrations that they're doing. So thank you to our PTA and PTOs for feeding our staff, but also we wanted to say thank you as well at this time. Another awesome event that happened the second year of, so I guess we could say second annual, kindergarten kickoff. That was May 7th. We had over 100 families attend our second annual kindergarten kickoff at all 4 elementary schools. This was born from our kindergarten teachers who wanted to get these families in. It's a push to get registration involved, and we've seen an increase in our registration numbers earlier because of this event, because they come to it. There's a bus that's there. The incoming kindergartners were able to see the classrooms. They were able to meet some of the teachers. They were able to meet the administrators. They took a picture in front of the Riverside banner. They went on the buses. There's a scavenger hunt. They walked out with a swag bag. It's a really cool, and a sign that says ready for kindergarten. It's a really great event that we do. We also explained a little bit about how we're doing kindergarten this year with our kindergarten camp to kind of explain what that concept looks like. So great things, we're really excited. Like I did say, May is a busy month. The following week, on Wednesday, May 14th, we hosted our annual military signing event. The grounds looked great, and it was really awesome to honor our 6 seniors who have committed to serve a higher purpose and join the military following graduation. And that's always held out front of the Wall of Honor, which is a great backdrop for that. So happy the weather held out for that one. It was windy. It's always windy that day, though. 5 days later, we recognized some of our student athletes in a letter of intent ceremony. We recognized seniors who signed their letter of intent to continue their academic and athletic careers in college, and that was Caden Boyd, who's going to Boulogne for golf, Giacomo Dolce, who's going to West Liberty University for baseball, Roland Green, who's going to Heidelberg for swimming, Katie Meinke, who's University of Tampa for cross country and track, and Austin Whittick, who's going to West Liberty University for baseball. So we had a lot of people who are decided to go play at the collegiate level, and we are excited for them as well. Another unique program to Riverside, but something that's just a really fun event, really cool for our elementary schools, is our Literacy Lineman program. On May 20th, we had players from the Riverside High School football team visit our elementary schools, read to the students as part of our Literacy Lineman. They also played kickball. I don't know if they were reading while they were playing kickball or just playing kickball with them and getting a chance to get recess. I think they snuck a recess in somehow, but it's a great opportunity for our kids to, our high school students to interact with our elementary students. And we are wrapping up the fall season, but we got a lot of conference teams going farther. So we pretty much kicked butt in the Western Reserve this spring. We were the girls track and field champions. The boys were runner-up, but if you're not a champion, you don't make this slide because we had a lot of success. Our baseball team was Western Reserve champs, and our softball team was also WRC champs. Our softball team and a baseball team are currently all 3 are in the postseason right now, and they're competing as they go through. So a little bit of update on where they're at. The boys and girls, like I said, they're competing. The track teams are competing at district this week in Nordonia High School. Usually it's a lot warmer and sunnier. This has not been the most ideal track season. Our softball team is playing for the district championship tonight at Youngstown State versus Mayfield.
It did get moved to tomorrow.
Oh, it did get because it rained out. See, if they would have played on our field, they would have played because it's been great. We were able to host a playoff game because of the field conditions and the reading of the field. That was really exciting for us as well. Baseball plays in the district semifinals on Tuesday at Wadsworth. They are 17-8. Lacrosse finished second in the WRC again. They didn't make the slide as well. At 8-8, they lost to Kenston in a nail-biter of a game from what I heard until the very end. And girls lacrosse finished their season at 9-10. Both of those teams ended their season in the regional round. A little bit more. Facilities update. So like I said, this has been talked earlier, we are kicking off CTE edition and Riverview Elementary edition within the next few weeks. Groundbreaking ceremonies at both locations is on Friday, May 30th, which coincides with the last day of school. A week from tonight, we will be celebrating the class of 2025 as they graduate. So congratulations to them. This is one of my favorite agenda items of the year is the voting or the recognition of the class of 2025 there on the agenda. Graduation starts next Thursday night at 7 p.m. at Riverside Stadium. If you can't make it, we do have a live stream link on the website. The weather right now is shifting a little bit. There's a 40% chance of rain, so we're crossing our fingers. The recent report said rain in the morning and it should be okay, but if it is a rain date, the makeup is the 30th at 7 p.m. And we will either be outside or inside depending on weather. So that's our rain date plan for that, and that concludes my update.
If it's any consolation, Euclid High School is, as we speak, having their graduation ceremony outside right now.
Yikes.
They didn't move it.
In Parkas.
Wow.
Ooh.
Huh.
Okay, thank you for that. Treasurer's report and committee update, Finance, Audit, and Personnel Committee.
Yeah, we met last Thursday morning and went through a lot of different things. Personnel, there's a lot of, being the end of the year, there's a lot of things that need to be updated. You'll see in the agenda later on, a lot of people just renewing of contracts and things like that. We also have a lot of contracts with entities that serve the district that need to be renewed. So we went through some of those things. And what we're also looking at is breaking down the organizational chart a little bit further from what it is, and also breaking down the budget items a little bit more than they normally are presented. And those will be for the administration and the board to go over and see what's happening with that. But it'll give us a little better grip on what's happening in the district, and I really appreciate the help from HR and the Treasurer's Office for the work on that. And that's been pretty much it. So,
Thank you for that. Update from the treasurer.
All right.
As always, we'll go through our monthly financial reports, which are posted both in board docs and on the treasurer page on the website. At the end of April, our total cash balance was $43.1 million of all of our funds. For the general fund, we ended just shy of $28 million, and then the permanent improvement fund is about $7.5 million. At the end of April, we had just about $2 million encumbered and $5.5 million unencumbered. Obviously, on May 9th, we signed those guaranteed maximum prices for the Career Tech and Riverview editions, so those funds are mostly encumbered at this point. Appropriation revenue estimates, we're currently 83.33% through the fiscal year. Our revenue is at 95%. That's because of our property tax collections coming in at 2 times throughout the year, so we received our first half collection. And then for expenditures, we're trying to go lower at 79.4% so far this fiscal year. Going into some general fund stats, our April revenue was $1.3 million, which included $611,000 in state foundation payments. That's our state funding from the state of Ohio. And we received the Medicaid cost settlement report for fiscal year 23, I think it was, for $445,000. So that we received that this month. We actually had 2 payments this year, so revenue's a little bit higher than typical in that category, but next year we'll level back out to normal. Interest revenue for April was just over $98,000. We're currently getting 4.49% in our Star Ohio account. And our investment account, we're getting about 3.85% for an overall yield of 4.25%. Our April general fund expenditures were just around $4.5 million. We said it's May, it's 5-year forecast season. I'm going to pass out a hard copy. I know everyone looks forward to going through the financials forecast. Hard copy. Just some information, the 5-year forecast contains estimates based on the best information available at this time, kind of like your weather forecast, or what's happening today compared to what's happening a week from now. Things could change. It's required to be updated and filed with the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce every November and May of each fiscal year. And the forecast will contain 3 previous years of actual data, so fiscal years 2022 through 2024, and then 5 years of forecasted data, our current fiscal year 2025 through fiscal year 2029. The forecast, the numbers only tell a little bit of the story. It's important to read the assumptions to know what goes into those numbers and what we're forecasting going forward. The forecast now only includes the general fund. It does not include any of the other 22 active funds for the district, such as the Permanent Improvement Fund. It also does not include the Lake County Financing District anymore. We've decided to remove that from the forecast, as it's not required to be in there, and it puts us more in line with the other districts in the Financing District and also the other districts throughout the states are all reporting consistently. And with the recent focus by the Ohio House on cash balances, we want to make sure that we're presenting appropriate data, so if they're making decisions based on that, they have the correct numbers to go through. Therefore, the actual data in fiscal years 2022 through 2024 were restated in this forecast. Some overview, we are solvent through fiscal year 2028, which you can see on line 7.02 of the forecast. We started deficit spending last year where our expenditures exceed our revenues, which is reflected on line 2021. In fiscal year 2022, there was a new state biennium budget that included the Fair School Funding Plan. It was originally intended to be a 6-year phase-in. The current fiscal year, 2025, is the 4th year of that phase-in. However, continued phase-in is not guaranteed. What's interesting about this forecast is that we basically have to predict what the state budget's going to do the next 2 biennium budgets, which obviously is unknown at this time.
Yeah.
And unlike what I said in November, now the phase-in of Fair School Funding Plan is questionable at best, and the House proposed 30% cap on cash balances would be catastrophic to us and pretty much most districts in the state of Ohio. So here's a quick summary. We started fiscal year 2025. Our restated beginning balance is $23.4 million. Our estimated revenue for this year is $52.6 million. Our estimated expenditures are at $56.3, which shows a deficit of just shy of $3.7 million. It looks a little funky this time because of the $2.5 million Career Tech grant. We're anticipating about having to advance about $2.3 million or so to the Career Tech Fund, because that's a grant that's on a reimbursement basis. In order to stay compliant with Ohio budgetary law, we have to advance those funds to that fund, to that grant fund at fiscal year end, just to keep us compliant, and they get returned in July. So that was a large transaction that was not in a prior forecast. Doesn't really change the overall financial picture. It's more of just a year-end fiscal year compliance thing we need to do. And we had to do something similar back when we had the COVID ESSER stimulus dollars. We had to do about a $1.8 million advance back then because of the timing of just how things come through in doing a construction project. We don't get those grant funds until we expend funds and then request reimbursement. So the money will be coming at some point. It's just the timing of how the fiscal year end comes and the logistics of that.
And the grant we put in a request for additional funds for CTE. When would we know anything on that?
I haven't heard anything, they said soon.
Soon.
And soon.
That sounds
Could be
like
a
the
week,
state.
could be a month, could be 6
Yeah.
months. It's,
But there's a chance we could offset the money we've put
that's the
out.
hope, but obviously it's
No
nothing guaranteed.
promise,
And
yeah.
Not followed up, it's only been a week or
Okay.
so since the plan.
Have they given any information as to how many districts applied?
They did not. They didn't really give anything other than they're making decisions soon.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, can you give me anything? Yeah, so.
Right.
So looking at, with those advances, we're ending about $19.7 million as a cash balance for the end of fiscal year '25. Carry that forward in that fiscal year '26. Now, fiscal year '26, we'd have the return of those advances in the revenue, so it'd be $56 million, and our expenditures are expected to be $56.4 million. So it's, next year will be similar to a break-even year. And then going forward, we continue to restart the deficit spend more substantially as costs continue to rise and revenues stay generally flat. This next slide just shows a chart. The first 3 years, fiscal years 2022 through 2025, are actual data, and then fiscal years 25 through 29 are projected. The green line shows revenues, the red line shows expenditures. Typically, because of those advances, now the lines aren't as, they're a little more choppier than they typically are, but typically your expenditures are always rising faster than revenues. And so the overall average revenue growth is about 1.52%, but our expenditures tend to grow 3.53% or so.
So the short explanation on that is that our revenues basically stay the same, basically, rise a little bit, but they basically stay the same because there's no inflation factor built in. And with about a 3% average inflation, expenditures go up.
Right. That's the challenge of school funding for the last half century.
Challenge of school
That's
funding
why there's
forever in
always
Ohio, right?
Levies on the ballot at some point.
Right.
That's how we end up there. The next slide shows a pie chart. Our general property tax revenue is about $32.9 million, or 63% of our revenue. That's class 1 to class 2, which that's basically your residential and commercial property taxes. The section in red, public utility personal property tax, $3.1 million, or 6% of our revenue. And then there's a section that's more of a teal color, state share of local property tax, $4 million. That's 8% of our revenue. That's the reimbursement you get from the state of Ohio for the rollbacks on levies prior to 2013, and people who qualify for the homestead exemption, they get a discount on their taxes. The state reimburses us for that. There's currently a petition trying to get on the November ballot to completely eliminate property taxes. If that were to happen, if you add those 3 slices, that'd be 77% of our revenue would disappear if that was to make it on the November ballot and get approved. And obviously, if you're losing 77% of your revenue, that's a nightmare.
So that obviously won't happen because all the schools in Ohio aren't going to shut down, but the legislature would have to go to work and figure out a new tax plan for Ohio if that happens. And so, yeah, we'll see what happens, right?
Right. Section in greens are unrestricted state funding, so that's about just shy of 7.8 million, or 15% of our revenue. So our total revenue for this year is 52.6 million. Next slide here just has a screenshot of the forecast. I know it's difficult to see, but just wanted to have it up on the screen so you can see our revenue generally, doesn't increase much. There are some increases in property taxes because of the use of 20 mil floor, so there's a little bit of increase in 25 to 26 from the reappraisal. And then in tax year 27, which would be reflected in fiscal year 27 and 28, we're currently assuming an 8% valuation increase. Obviously, we'll address that as that time gets closer to see what that might look like, if it's going to be more or less, and what the housing market looks like. Line 1.035, our unrestricted state grants and aid, our state funding, pretty much flatlined through the forecast. There's a slight decrease in 26 and minor increases, and that's basically casino tax revenue. The other revenue from the state funding, which is the majority of that number, right now it's assuming flat because we don't know what the state budget looks like. If the governor's proposal had gone through, we'd see an increase in transportation funding. If the House budget went through, we'd stay relatively flat. And then we don't know what the Senate's going to propose. That's going to come out in the next 2 weeks, I believe. And then you'll see in fiscal year 2026, on line 2.05 for advances, you'll see that return of that $2,650,000 advance there that you'll see on the next couple slides when we show the expenditure side of things. Since we're primarily funded through property taxes, this next slide, this shows all of our property tax levies that are currently in effect. Our last operating levy was 2017. We're at the 20 mil floor with the reappraisals. We current 20 mil of general fund millage, current expense levies. We have a 2.9 mil substitute levy based for a total general fund millage of 22.9 mils. And then we have a permanent improvement fund collecting at 1.51 mils, and our debt from construction of Parkside and Riverview collecting at 1.13 mils for overall total millage of 25.54. What does that mean? This next slide shows the school district tax rates throughout Lake County. It's shown in the orange color with the financing district that applies to 4 different school districts reflected in green. Riverside has the 3rd lowest school district tax rate in the county. Perry's at the bottom at the 20 mil floor plus the financing district. With the power plant, they can't go any lower on their tax rates with the power plant there. But typically, Riverside and Madison are the 2nd and 3rd lowest, depending on who had passed the last operating levy. And you can see Wickliffe has the highest tax rate at 41.08. On the expenditure side, if you were to take this pie chart and do it for every school district in the state, it all look very similar. Salary and benefits are your 2 largest pieces. Salaries makes up just shy of $30 million, or 53% of our budget. With the employee benefits, about $13.5 million, or 24% of our budget. Within the remaining categories of purchase services, that includes, just curriculum services, some repairs, utilities, things like that, about 13%. Supplies, about $1.8 million. That's your bus fuel plus all your typical supplies, paper, and all those things that we purchase throughout the year. And then we have some other small categories there. So our total expenditure is $56.3 million for fiscal year 25. And then here's just showing the overall look of that forecast. You can see we're here to compare this to the November forecast. Obviously, the salary and benefit lines changed because we restated those due to the financing district removal. And then purchase services, supplies, capital outlay, and then those other categories are pretty much the same as what we projected in November. There was pretty immaterial tweaks to those numbers. And then in line 5.02, you'll see the advance out of the $2.6 million that gets returned in the following fiscal year. Looking at our cash balance, we have a cash balance policy that was adopted in 2022. Basically says that the board believes that maintaining a general fund cash reserve of at least 90 days is necessary in the interest of sound fiscal management. For us, being that we're primarily funded through property taxes that come in 2 large chunks throughout the year, we need that 90-day cash balance in order to make payroll in like January and February of each year as our cash balances get low. A district like Painesville City, who's heavily state funded, could have a lower cash balance because they're getting 24 payments equally throughout the year. So it just depends on school district to school district. The first 3 bars are our historical cash balances, 177 days, 183s, and 168 days, respectively. For fiscal year 25 and 26, they're essentially equal now because of the way we had to advance funds out and return them at 125 days. And then right now, we're estimated in 27 at 84 days, which is just below that 90-day cash balance policy that says that we should start taking action 2 fiscal years ahead of time, which would be this fiscal year. We've talked about at a previous meeting what the next levy may look like, continuing whether it's a property tax or income tax being looked at. We obviously we'll have more discussions on that going forward, but once we know the state budget and how those things work out, I think we'll have more clarity for the next forecast in November. We're close to that 90 days. It wouldn't take much to get to 90 days. We also have a lot of staffing changes this year that I didn't mention too much before with the change in eligibility retirement for STRS. So we're having a little more spike in retirements this year, and we've been analyzing staffing. There's a lot of moving parts right now, so those numbers could be tweaked in the next forecast once we have some clarity and basically when the dust settles, because we're an organization of 600 employees, and there's a lot of movement right now, and there's getting some savings there. And also with our health insurance, we're making some big changes there as well, and hoping to realize some savings or at least mitigate future increases going forward. So there's opportunities there, and those are all being worked on and explored as we go forward. What could change on the next slide? Obviously, legislative changes, the property taxes, there are a lot of proposals out there that have different effects on the district depending on how they ultimately reform property taxes. As I said before, the House proposed to implement a 30-day cash carryover limit based on your prior year expenditures. It would be catastrophic. It would be a loss of several $1 million back to our taxpayers, which would kind of make it difficult to operate going forward.
So you said 30 days, like 30%.
30%, it's 30%, yeah. 30% of
So,
prior year.
yeah, so as a 30% of your operating amount, if you have that cash balance. And with that adjustment you made, our cash balance went down about $3 million.
Correct. And what's interesting about that proposal, so it's based on your prior year expenditures. So if it was in effect currently for this fiscal year, based on last year's expenditures, our cash balance would have, our maximum cash balance would be $15 million. We would have lost $8 million this year. Looking at it for next year, because we advanced out $2.6 million, it actually increases our expenditures, which increases the allowable carryover balance, but then their cash balance went down. So right now, it'd probably be more of a $3 to $4 million loss looking into the next fiscal year based on.
If they stay at 30%,
right.
The House bill that passed.
So,
Yeah.
Mr. Placker, I think, like by my just quick math, right, we would be eliminating almost, if that went into effect over the course of the next 2 years, because it wouldn't come into effect in the third year of the forecast, because we're at a 14 million, which would be reduced, we would be wiping out the fiscal balance, or the cash balance completely at the end of 2028. We would be in negative.
Most likely, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to make sure that my quick math, like, is like I'm in the right ballpark, like that's
And
just what.
ironically, part of the state budget proposal with that
Because you only
cash
have to do a
is
3-year forecast.
they want to reduce the 5-year forecast
Right.
to 3-year forecast, which in my opinion is to hide the financial.
Right, because they don't want anybody to
implications.
see that, because that's when everybody's gonna get hit with that net negative balance, and now you're gonna run out of cash in 3 years instead of 5.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, almost all your districts would be in a negative at 3, 4, and 5.
Fiscal
Right.
watch or emergency.
Well, not all districts would be, it's really the districts that are receiving lump sums, that are considered the
The
wealthier
ones that are
districts.
significantly
Yeah.
Correct.
financed by property tax.
Right.
Right, the districts that get the 24 lump sums throughout the year, they won't feel the same impact that others will feel.
Right. They
Yeah,
can
yeah, they won't see anything, basically.
Okay.
And then there's, the question about whether or not they're going to continue to phase in the fair school funding plan. Right now, we're not projecting an increase. And then interest rates, I think everyone's expecting interest rates to go down at some point. I don't think anybody's expecting to go up. And so obviously, if our cash balances are declining, interest will go down just from that, not counting decreased rates going forward. And then on the expenditure side, just, staffing needs going forward, increased retirements, healthcare changes, and then what's new housing development, casement property, what revenue will start coming in from that when that starts to develop.
That'll take years, though,
Right.
for anything meaningful to come in.
I have a question. So right now, state law says that if you have a fiscal deficit, if you have deficit spending and whatever, and you've got negative numbers on here, that you have to submit to them a plan of improvement, correct?
If it's so right now, looking at the current forecast, if we were projecting a negative cash balance in 27, we would be required to submit a plan of what that.
Right. So by taking the couple years off of the forecast, are they going to eliminate that too? Because they're not going to see it,
Right.
right? It's shady.
Yeah. It's probably one of the most dangerous and least thought out pieces of legislation I've seen in my career.
Ms. Fargo, can you remind me again, I didn't write it down, when our last levy was for operating funds?
Operating fund was May of 2017.
And the typical cycle on operating levels is what, about 5 years?
3 to 5 years in the state of Ohio is the typical.
Typical, so 17, we're already at 8, going into 9 years.
Correct.
trying to make time.
The goal was to.
Right.
The goal was to make it to 10. I don't
Run
know.
it out as far as
Yeah,
we
I
can,
remember-
right?
Remember Jack Miley, he was on the board, he made the comment after the levy passed, we better make it last 10 years. And we're close.
We're close.
We're trying.
Well, let's give Jack a call.
Well, we
We're
certainly
close,
made the
Jack.
last one last 21 years.
2004 was the prior, the prior one before that.
It says,
It was an emergency levy that was changed to a substitute levy in
well,
2009.
right, but I'm saying we had 1986 and then 2017, so we didn't do too bad. We did have the substitute levy. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Public comment. Anyone wishing to address the Board of Education will be recognized by the board president. Speakers are requested to speak from the podium, identify themselves and their topic. Comments are limited to 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Susie Stimmitz, and I'm a teacher at Buckeye Elementary. I'd like to respectfully ask the board to reconsider the current proposal regarding classroom assignments for the upcoming school year, specifically as it relates to our music and art programs. We urge the board to adopt option 1 instead of option 2, an option that central office and administration has already agreed that is best for our students. This plan allows music and art to continue sharing a dedicated classroom rather than requiring these educators to push the materials from room to room on a cart. While we recognize that the space is limited, option 2 has significant consequences for both instructional quality and student experience. Our related arts teachers are limited in what they can offer the students without a designated space. This year, for example, students created clay sculptures and multi-step painting projects, activities that require proper storage, work surfaces, and cleanup space. In music, students rely on having the room to play instruments, sing, and engage in movement-based lessons. These activities are fundamental to the curriculum and cannot be fully replicated in general education classrooms without compromising quality. Additionally, having music classes in the general education classrooms can create distractions for nearby classes. As anyone who's heard a group of 4th graders practicing recorders know that it's not just background noise. It's also important to understand how deeply this impacts our students. Elementary students need movement breaks and a change of environment throughout the day to stay focused and engaged. Transitioning to dedicated spaces like art and music rooms provides mental and physical breaks that help students recenter and return to their academic work with renewed attention. When art and music are confined to their home rooms, students lose that opportunity, leading to increased restlessness and a decreased focus overall. There are also safety concerns tied to option 2. If it's adopted, lunch tables would need to be stored around the perimeter of the gym, just like it was last year when we were on a cart. During that period, students could have been injured due to the cramped space and surrounding obstacles. This is a risk we should not be willing to take again. We deeply value our related arts programs and believe they deserve the same thoughtful consideration as core academics. Keeping a shared classroom for art and music preserves the quality of instruction, safeguards student safety, and supports our developmental needs. Thank you for your time and consideration. We respectfully ask that you adopt option 1 in the best interests of all Buckeye students. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Rachel Lozinski. This is my husband Al. We are here to ask what the school district is going to do about bullying at the schools. So I want to start out by saying that our son has a diagnosis of autism and anxiety. I've been asking since before kindergarten to get him on an IEP, which I've repeatedly been ignored. It took me to contact somebody from the State Department to finally get the school district to agree on a 504 plan for behaviors, which I told them that I don't want this labeled as behaviors because my son does not have behaviors. It is his anxiety where he struggles the most. This has resulted in my child fighting me to go to school every day, saying his stomach hurts, crying because he doesn't want to get out of the car, has completely shut down, won't participate at school or in activities. My son has repeatedly been bullied by name-calling, pushing down on the playground, marking on his face, ripping his t-shirt, a kid telling him he wants to kill him at recess, and a kid on the bus holding his hand with the L symbol up, calling my kid a loser. Also, I repeatedly get told that the cameras don't see an angle of the playground, which is where a lot of the kids know that the cameras don't see, so a lot of incidents happen in that spot on the playground. So I want to know what the district is going to do to ensure my son's safety next year, because school should be a safe zone for every child.
So my name is Amy Zurin. I have a child at Lamuth Elementary School. I was informed by her that they've been going out for recess. I mean, not recess, but when they go out for gym, on the nice days, sometimes they go out for gym. Wonderful. I walk all the time. I think that's wonderful. When the kids have to go to the bathroom, when they're using the outdoors for gym, they're being told to use the porta potties. These are 5th, 6th, and 7th graders. I'm not sure how many of you guys like to use a porta potty, but I avoid them at all costs. So if we're one community pursuing greatness and getting better every day, I don't know why my kid who is doing gym outside at Lamuth, who might have to go to the bathroom, increased movement might have a child need to go to the bathroom. And after or before lunch, that might accentuate the need to go to the bathroom. There's no way that one community pursuing greatness and getting better every day has middle schoolers going to the bathroom in a porta potty. No. Absolutely not. I don't know any of the 5 of you guys elected officials that would say that's okay. When I was in middle school and we got to play outside for gym or recess, I was never asked to go to the restroom in a porta potty. Why should I expect that for my kids or anybody else's kids who's here who might have a child at that school system, that school, that doesn't jive with me? That's not okay. That's not okay. So, and I asked my child, what was the excuse given why you were asked to use the porta potty? She couldn't give me one. And she said that we were allowed to go in the school at an earlier time during the school year to use the restroom inside, but we're not allowed anymore. So, what that sentence says, it doesn't jive with middle schoolers being asked to use porta potties. And if I didn't have to do that in middle school, most adults don't like to use them at events. I'm one of them. So lunch can make you need to go to the restroom, and movement outside can make you need to go to the restroom. So I just ask that you think about that and make a change. Thank you.
Okay. Consent agenda, finance and audit.
I make a motion to approve items A through L listed on the finance audit consent agenda as recommended by the treasurer. Can I have a second?
A second.
Any discussion?
Yes, I would just like to thank those who have made some donations. We have $5,000 from Assembly Specialists Inc. to the Riverside Review, so I'd like to thank that organization and that family. $1,000 from Root Apothecary to Riverside Review, also the same family, so thank you to them. $21,221.96 from the Gridiron Club for the 24-25 school year for coaches. $146.54 from RLEF to the RLEF Activity Fund. $4,000 from John Weiss to the John Weiss Scholarship Fund. $200 from Cherry's Aid Foundation America on behalf of Jill Manley for Ms. Gill's classroom activities at Parkside Elementary. I'd just like to thank those. Those are extremely generous donations, and I know that the folks from Assembly Specialists and Root Apothecary, those are a former family, district family that they're now all graduated, so thank you to them.
Yes, we do appreciate all donations. So, any other discussion? Okay. Gary, take the roll.
Dennis Keeney,
Aye.
Denise Brewster,
Aye.
Belinda Grassi,
Aye.
Lori Kniske,
Aye.
Scott Fishel.
Aye. Motion carried. Consent agenda personnel.
This is a long one.
So this is the May long one, it's
Okay. Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve items A through K listed on the personnel consent agenda as recommended by the superintendent. Can I get a second?
A second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Gary, take the roll.
Denise Brewster,
Aye.
Belinda Grassi,
Aye.
Lori Kniske,
Aye.
Scott Fishel,
Aye.
Dennis Keeney.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Congratulations to those retirements officially.
Approval of consent agenda curriculum and programming.
Okay, I make a motion to approve items A through C listed on the curriculum and programming consent agenda as recommended by the superintendent. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, to the graduating class.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Can't wait to see that.
Okay, Mr. Placco, will you call the roll?
Belinda Grassi,
Aye.
Lori Kniske,
Aye.
Scott Fishel,
Aye.
Dennis Keeney,
Aye.
Denise Brewster.
Aye.
Motion carried. Consent agenda buildings and grounds. Make a motion to approve the items listed on the buildings and grounds operations consent agenda as recommended by the superintendent. Items A through C. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Gary, can you call the roll?
Oh, I'm sorry, do you have something?
Discussion.
Mr. Placco, I just want to, are these things already accounted for in the PI fund?
The only thing I had a question on was the seal coating. We were gonna wait till July for that, or are we gonna? July. I believe we were gonna issue the PO in July for the seal coating.
So the
We're
seal
gonna
coating.
schedule
I'm sorry, I'm asking Mr. Placco real
Yeah,
quick.
and we had discussions about that.
So can I ask Mr. Placco, please?
Yeah, and so
Are these
there's-
encumbered at this time, Mr. Placco?
They'd be encumbered after we approve it in July, when the new, when we set the new budgets for next fiscal year. So it was reflected in the forecast going forward. We always have an allowance for some of these items that we do on a routine basis.
Right, and so we discussed that too. That's probably going to be a general fund item because it's repair. It's not a 5-year item.
Is that,
That's not, well, typically this goes on the permanent improvement fund because you're maintaining an asset that has a 5-year life.
Right, and so we're probably going to be audited, looking at having an audit. And it's my understanding from the auditor that any repair maintenance is a general fund item. So we're probably going to get audited on this.
We get audited every year.
No, I'm saying on this one item, because
we
we talked about this in buildings and grounds.
Oh, we talked
What
about
did
that.
you say in buildings and grounds?
Exactly what I just said now. It's
You said it could
maintaining-
come out of the general fund
I mean,
because it's
any-
not a 5-year item.
I didn't say it was not a 5-year item. I said anything can come out of the general fund. The general fund can be used for any proper public purpose. We typically do these larger maintenance and repair items out of the permanent improvement fund.
Exactly. So, and I asked you if a faucet's being repaired, and that repair item would be paid out of where? You said general
That'd be
fund,
general
because it's a
fund.
repair. So when you're doing repairs and it doesn't have a 5-year lifespan, then it comes out of the general fund.
Parking lot has longer than a 5-year lifespan.
No, striping and seal coating does not have a 5-year lifespan. Okay, so we asked Mr. Arlesic, and Mr. Arlesic said in that meeting it's a 2 to 3 year lifespan.
I'm going to defer to Mr. Platco.
So
So
Mr.
in your-
Arlesic, is the seal coating, how long does that typically last?
It's a process of lasts 2 to 3 years that extends the life of the current asphalt that you have. Could last anywhere from 15 to 20 to 25
Exactly.
years.
The maintenance is a 2 to 3 year item.
Did I just hear it extends the life?
Correct.
Thank you.
Right. So if you're going to extend the life of something, if you're going to wax your car, that doesn't come out of the PI fund, even though the car is going to last you 10 years.
The reason I'm asking is right now if I'm reading here on this, our April 2025 financial report, our permanent improvement fund currently has $5.5 million unencumbered, right? And that does not include what was approved on May 9th, correct?
Correct.
All right, so when we remove that, we're going to have about $227,000 in the PI fund for this time. And then when do we have to return the $500,000 that was borrowed from the general fund back to the general fund?
It was actually 325,000. We revised it at that meeting. But that would get returned in July. We get our first property tax advance in July.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll have an updated PI forecast for the June meeting.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you for that. Gary, any
Can I
further
ask one more
discussion?
question? I just want to make sure and ensure that our treasurer is still making the decisions on which fund we're paying things out of. Not the board. Like, your recommendation is that we're paying that out of the PI fund.
I would continue our past practice that
Thank you.
we've done for many years.
Okay, Gary, can you take the roll?
Lori Kniske,
Aye.
Scott Fishel,
Aye.
Dennis Keeney,
Aye.
Denise Brewster,
Aye.
Belinda Grassi.
Aye.
Motion carried. Board of Education, business. Disposal of Buckeye trailers, resolution to approve the disposal of the trailers currently located at Buckeye Elementary School in accordance with Board Policy 7300 and 7310. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Dr. Sino, Mr. Placco, is this by recommendation of you, or is this strictly by the board?
We do need to move them before we build the Buckeye property. This is not in part of the scope of work. This is more of a board agenda to move it quicker.
And based on what I saw from the timeline, we do not have a construction date at this point. It's a general idea. Or do we have the GMP for this?
We do not.
Okay, thank you.
So would that mean that there is a distinct possibility that we might need these classrooms?
We have a plan moving forward for the enrollment of Buckeye for next year.
Does it include the trailers?
It does not include the modulars at this time.
And what's the cost going to be on the demolition and disposal and removal? We don't have a cost yet, because that's also going to then have to come out of the permanent improvement fund. That's not really included in our PI forecast. I just want to make sure that we are sure to encumber that when we get those prices. I don't even know what that would cost, right? Mr. Alessio, do we even have a ballpark?
We received a preliminary budget number from Eagle Abatement and Demolition of roughly $39,000 to remove the 3 modular units and the walkway planking that's attached to them.
Gary, can you take the roll?
Dennis Keeney,
Aye.
Denise Brewster,
Aye.
Glenn DeGrassi,
Nay. I think it's too early.
Lori Knessky,
Nay.
Scott Fishel.
Aye. Motion carried. Classroom moves for the 2025-2026 school year. Resolution to approve the classroom moves for the 2025-2026 school year. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Is this option 1 or option 2?
The discussion, she asked a question. This is option 2.
With no discussion.
During the multiple meetings that we held with the Buckeye Committee, a lot of ideas were discussed, all thoughts and opinions were considered, and in the end, it came down to 2 options.
And which one does the administration prefer?
Mrs. Smolin prefers option 1.
So with the removal of the 3 trailers housing 6 classrooms, we needed to provide a plan to house the Buckeye students within the existing building. And that's how we came up with, Smolin came up with 2 different options.
So who came up with option 2?
She did.
This is also
She
to
presented
say-
both.
One thing I will say, this is assuming current enrollment status of 3 sections of kindergarten, as well as it continues on. Our trends are not looking to show that at this point. Buckeye does enroll late as well. So at that point, there may be an option 3 if we don't have the necessary enrollment to fill the 3.
So this is even premature.
So right now, we have 26 kindergarten students enrolled. 28. And in checking with last year's numbers, they were much higher.
Is this something we have to decide now? Is this something that we can, what do we have to decide classroom placement currently?
When students are coming, in other words, when teachers are leaving for the summer, we have to vacate the trailers, so they have to know where they're going. We also have to work with our maintenance staff on where their things are going and how they're going to be labeled and staged because of cleaning schedules. And so the only, thing that's hanging out there and no one can predict until the day before school starts is kindergarten enrollment. But right now, our numbers are way down.
We moved an entire school, two elementary schools, into our classrooms, within 3 days of school starting, if I'm not mistaken. And that worked. I just think it's premature to say this is where everybody's going to go when we don't even know what's going to happen. We don't know our enrollment. We don't know, it's a lot of stuff. I think there should be some more conversation and discussion between the administration and the staff, and I don't think there's agreement here on what this is going to look like, and I feel it's premature to do this.
I also believe our administration and staff have done this for years without the board micromanaging it, and I feel that the administration and staff can do this for us furthermore, so.
So we have the discussion.
Ms. Brewster, let me ask you.
Yes.
How many meetings has the Buckeye Committee had?
I would say we probably had 4 or 5 meetings, probably more like 5.
How many of those meetings did you discuss this item?
Probably at least 3.
3 of the meetings?
Teachers.
Pardon me?
0. How many included teachers?
So, okay, this is,
Yeah.
thank you for that, but how many meetings you said this was discussed in 3 of the meetings?
It was presented, there was discussion about it, then actually Dr. Malakar, who's not here tonight, she originally had a plan. Then we reworked the plan, and really it was, I asked Mrs. Smolin to go back, and she came up with those two options. And the two times that we've met with Ryan and discussed the different options, I decided on number two.
Right, so.
I will be honest, I did, because I am the one that
So-
feels that we're not taking
And
away
why-
the library.
And we don't want to have to ask anyone to leave, so please.
No.
So again, I'm gonna ask
so-
again, what
so
does the
let me-
current administration recommend if option one or option two? What does our administration recommend that we do? If we're supposed to vote tonight, or would the administration just decide to like push this off till end of July, August, which is really not out of the question. We've done it before. We moved a whole school in a week when Hale Road had to go down offline. We did it. Man, we did it. So I don't know what the rush is today to have to vote on classrooms.
So let me ask, did the Hale Road movement have anything to do with the Hale Road adjustments because of the behavior problems at Hale Road?
No, Hale Road was because of an asbestos issue caused by a construction
Right.
contractor. We had to move an entire school in a matter of 2
Right.
weeks before school started. We did it.
Yeah, and good job on that. So what I'm saying is at Hale Road, there were mistakes made, and we had to change whole programming because we were having real problems over there.
But there's absolutely no reason why we can't ask teachers to move classrooms. They're willing to do it the week before school. I'm just asking if the administration is not sold on whatever option is being presented here based on Mrs. Brewster's theory of what we should do. That's not how things work. We're supposed to have consensus with the people who are in the buildings, the administration, our administrative teams. Like there's supposed to be some collaboration and discussion on what they feel is the best course of action, and we're not following that. We're Mrs. Brewster wants her
The initial
option.
The initial discussion was about having fourth grade take over the library and the room that connects to it that's been, will be vacated as a special ed room, so that they could team teach. And so I did not think it was fair to the rest of the students. I actually polled many students at different functions to ask what they thought about their library being gone, and they were
So,
not
Ms.
in
Brewster,
favor.
let me ask you, like, I'm just going to pose this question. Are you an administrator in this district? Because if the administration in this district and the principal of that building doesn't believe option two is a plan, then why are we doing that? Why are board members here at the table trying to act like the administration? That's not our role.
There's still going to be a library.
There's no discussion in the audience, is there?
So are you, yeah, you said you've had about 5 Buckeye committee meetings?
Yes, and I've also had several discussions with Dr. Rotino, and I told him, you know, when we were discussing it, we thought it was already settled, and then it came up again in the last meeting. And I understand advocating for staff, but, you know, in this case, I'm making the best decision for what's good for students and
So
not losing the
again, you
library.
keep saying that you're making the best decision. This is a board decision. It's supposed to be a district administrative decision,
Okay, so I'm,
not a
this is
one-person
my
decision.
recommendation.
There's still a library, it's still going to be there. It's just going to be in a different room.
And as a result of the lack of, I don't know, agreement between the staff, like we should be trying to make our staff happy in their space. They're the ones who have to work there every day. If we can't get agreement on what that's supposed to look like, and we're just gonna bully them into like, here, you're gonna do this, I feel like that's so disrespectful to the people who go to work every day in that building. Why are we doing that? Why can't we put
when
this
I-
decision off until some later date when we can have further conversation with the entire groups of people that are affected by these decisions?
When I visited Melridge, they have team teaching going on, and the students walk outside in the hallway to the other room. And we even investigated the possibility of making a door between 2 rooms to make that possible, rather than take the library away, and that was, 20 $25,000 expense? Yeah, and we thought that was unnecessary at this time. We're going to have it in the new building. We're planning for it with the renovation, and we have to wait one more year, so some students who might, if they want to do the team teaching, it's still available, and we did not need to spend another $20,000 for that.
We're going through a transition period.
Yes.
During construction. So we're going to have a year of, disruption. And then we'll be able to get back on track. So-
Again, I'm going to ask, I am just going to continue to ask, is there any reason why the staff can't be collaborated with and give them the option of the plan that they choose? We ask the unions to vote on our school calendar, but we're not going to ask the staff who works in the building, what plan are you most in tune with? What do you think is going to work best for you? I don't teach in that school. How would I know? I don't know what works best for them. They know best.
All thoughts and opinions were discussed and considered. They were discussed you weren't in our meeting.
Just call the vote.
Please call the vote.
Just call the roll.
Jesus.
Denise Brewster,
Aye.
Glenn DeGrassi,
Nay.
Lori Kniske,
Nay.
Scott Fishel,
Aye.
Dennis Keane.
Aye. Motion carried.
Absolutely disrespectful. Thanks for caring about us.
Motion carried. There's an item on here that says change order, and it's the Riverside CTE edition. And I'm going to read this, but it's not so much a change order as it is an approval for payment because the work has already been completed. It's not yet to be done. It's already been completed. So it's just taken some time for some reason to get on the board agenda to be paid. So resolution to approve a change order with Cleveland Construction, Inc. in the amount of $6,042.19 for necessary pre-construction survey work for the Riverside Campus Improvement Project. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
So
Thank
can
you.
I ask a question? Why would that not just be,
Recommended by the treasurer?
well, not only
Or
that,
voted?
but,
That's a very good question.
an item that we've already, we have a section of the agenda where we approve those types of purchase orders.
Right, that's a very good question.
I'm just like, who did the work? Did Cleveland Construction come in and do the work that we didn't know about?
There was
And then
some-
presented a bill? Because
there was some
sometimes we know
knowledge
that
it was
happens.
happening. I think there was some confusion on who was being directly billed for that work. It was something that, there were some emails about months ago. It came through on a pay application. We got our first pay application for the pre-construction work, and it had a change order on there for survey work. And so I sent it over to Roger. I'm like, what is this? Wasn't
And
sure
that's
what
the
it
first
was.
you'd seen it.
And that was the first that I'd seen the total dollar amount. I might have seen a quote at some point previously, and I'm not 100% sure. And it came through as a change order on the pay application. I never actually got the actual documentation for it until I asked for it. Also, the first pay application did not add up correctly, so I kicked it back to Cleveland Construction and said, this needs revised, I need support for this. And then I put it on the board agenda because I do not have any change order authority on this project. So both this agenda item and the next agenda item is for the topographical survey and the utility locator location services that had to be done for this project.
Do you know how long ago that work was done?
I'm not sure when it was completed. There were some proposals back from February or March when it was dated, but I'm not sure when the actual work occurred. I believe some utility work happened probably in April, maybe, the survey, I think it was.
End of March.
End of March.
beginning of April.
Over spring break, possibly. I had not seen this. They sent me the pay application. The pay application is through the end of March. They had sent me through a DocuSign, but they didn't send any type of email to follow up with it. I didn't know it was from them and for that purpose, so I didn't click on it because I don't click on links I'm not familiar with, and that one, so I had missed those emails until they had reached out and asked what the status of the payment was, and then they had to be sending me the information.
So is this unencumbered?
At this time, yes.
Can you call the roll, please?
Linda Grassi,
Nay.
Lori Kniske,
Nay.
Scott Fishel,
Aye.
Dennis Keeney,
Aye.
Denise Brewster.
Aye.
Motion carried. Change order Riverview addition, same kind of situation. Resolution to approve a change order with Cleveland Construction, Inc. in the amount of $12,945.25 for necessary pre-construction survey work for the Riverview Elementary School expansion and improvement project. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Discussion?
Gary, I was trying to think of then and now. Sorry. We would generally have those on the agenda, correct? Why isn't this a then and now certificate?
It should be, we failed to put it on, and we'll put it on the next agenda to have that approved.
Thank you.
And again, these are unencumbered funds.
Correct.
Thank you.
And at that, we can, well, it's going to pass, it doesn't matter. Okay, thank you.
Gary, can you call the roll?
Lori Kniske,
Nay.
Scott Fishel,
Aye.
Dennis Keeney,
Aye.
Denise Brewster,
Aye.
Linda Grassi.
Nay.
Motion carried. Board of Education update. Any Board of Education updates?
Yeah, I would like to go on record as making a statement to the staff in our district that I appreciate what they do. I value their time in their classrooms. I understand that I am not a teacher and I'm not a professional in those classrooms. And when it comes to what happens in their schools and how they teach and how they go about their day-to-day business occupying their space is something that I think they should have within their control. And I just think that, again, as Mrs. Zurin said, if we are putting ourselves out there as one community pursuing greatness, getting better every day, we are not doing that. We are not living up to that, and I'm going to apologize for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Next meeting announcement, Curriculum and Programming Committee, June 10th at 7:30 a.m. Finance and Personnel, June 18th at 8 a.m. Board of Education meeting, June 26th at 6 p.m. And normally we would have a Buildings and Grounds on June 24th. So do we want to just put that in the schedule now?
You can add that.
And Buildings and Grounds on June 24th at 7:30 a.m. Move to adjourn at 7:08. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Can you call the roll?
Lori Kniske,
Aye.
Scott Fishel,
Aye.
Dennis Keeney,
Aye.
Denise Brewster,
Aye.
Linda Grassi.
Aye.
Motion carried. Everyone have a great evening.